and welcome to Craft with Sarah and another video in my series of themed flower pot free SVGs. The weather is definitely getting warmer now. We're heading into summer, which means it is wedding season. If you're attending a wedding over the next few months and you're wondering what you could make as a wedding gift, well, how about a beautiful shadow box with this rose wedding themed papercraft design? There are 3 roses and lots of other flowers in a nice pretty little flower pot with intertwined rings along the bottom. You could even personalise it by adding the date of the wedding or the names of the happy couple to the front of the frame. Or if you're not on the lookout for something to put in a frame, how about a super special wedding card? The design cuts beautifully even at a super small size, so you can make a really personalised card with a gorgeous papercraft on the front. This is a 5x7 inch card. If I put my hand up, you can see just how small those roses are, but it cuts perfectly because the Cricut is just amazing at doing those little paper crafts. So let's find out where to get the free SVG and how to make this lovely wedding themed Cricut project. Let's get started. You can find the free files to make this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs, or click the link in the description of this video to go to the tutorial where you can download straight from that page. You'll need to register a free account on my website in order to download any of the designs. The download comes in a zip folder. Before you can get the files into your cutting machine software, you'll need to unzip that folder. Visit craftwithsarah.com/help for instructions on how to do that, as well as a wide range of other tutorials on how to use your Cricut, Silhouette or Scan and Cut machine. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, it's time to get the SVG file into Cricut Design Space. Open up Design Space and start a new project. Then go to Upload over on the left and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the download folder, and within there you'll see lots of subfolders. The ones to pay attention to for Cricut Design Space are the ones that are called 01 Cricut version. That's the one that's got the file in that we'll be uploading, but also have a look in Assembly Guide. That contains a printable guide on the order to stick all the pieces together in, which can be really helpful to have next to you as you're crafting along. But to get the file uploaded, go into the 01 Cricut version folder. If you're using a different brand of cutting machine, for example Silhouette or Scan and Cut, and you're not sure which file to use, go to craftwithsarah.com/help. Choose your machine from the list of options on the screen, and then there are separate tutorials in there on which file to select. But for Cricut, we'll go into 01 Cricut version. Within there is only one file, and it starts SVG-01 in the file name. Drag that into Design Space and this is what it looks like. If yours is looking different to this, it may mean that you've uploaded the wrong file. So if that's the case, press cancel down here on the bottom right, try again and make sure you choose the 01 Cricut version folder and the file in there that starts SVG-01. Press continue and then there's no need to change anything on this next screen, just press upload. And then it will appear on your canvas. It loads in at a size which is great for cutting, but of course you can resize it if you want to. To do that, make sure the padlock icon above the width and the height box is closed. If yours is open, you can click it to close it. And that means you can change either the width or the height, press enter on your keyboard, and the other measurement changes as well to keep everything in proportion. If you're cutting this to go in a specific frame size or on a particular type of greetings card, then I recommend building up some layers on your screen before you cut it out so that you can make sure it's definitely going to be the right size. There's nothing worse than making your paper craft and then finding out it doesn't fit where you wanted to put it. I'm going to show you 2 separate ways you could use this project, in a shadow box and on a greetings card. Let's take a look at the shadow box first. Here's a project I've made to go inside a 9x9 inch frame. So my background here is 9x9. I won't actually cut it from dark grey, I'm going to use a patterned paper for this, so I've just made it grey to remind myself when I'm cutting it out that it will need to be from a pattern and not a solid colour. I've then made 2 smaller squares to draw the eye into the middle of the frame. The darker one is 6.5 by 6.5 and the lighter one is 6 by 6 inches. My flower pot is sized to 7.5 inches tall, which is just over 7.25 inches wide. So this will be nice and big and easy to stick together and look very stunning and lovely and pretty inside my frame. But what about making it really small to go on a greetings card? Here's how the design could look if you wanted to turn it into a card. This will be a 5 by 7 inch card when it's cut out and folded, which means my base card at the very bottom is 10 inches all the way along the top and 7 inches down the side. Once again, I've created two smaller shapes in the middle. They're rectangles this time rather than square. My gold is 4.5 by 6.5 inches and my white is 4.25 by 6.25. My flower pot design is very tiny at only 4.25 inches wide, which is just over 4.4 inches tall. I then found that there was quite a lot of empty space at the top and the bottom of my card, so I had a look in images in Cricut Access to find some things to put in there, and both of these will be drawn out with the Cricut pens. To find similar images, go into images on the left and then try and type out what you're looking for. We could just try wedding. And then if you want to use the Cricut pens like I'm doing, go into the little filter here and click on draw. And then you can have a look through and see what's there. For a full step-by-step video and written tutorial on how to make greetings cards like this within Design Space, including how to find images to fill in any gaps, how to make all the layers, how to add score lines, and anything else you need to know about greetings cards, and how to make the shadow box backgrounds like you saw just a moment ago, head to craftwithsarah.com/help. Choose either Cricut, Silhouette, or Scan and Cut from the list of machine options, and then scroll down that page for separate tutorials on how to make the cards and the shadow boxes. But for now, let's go back to my original design as I loaded it in. When you're happy to make your project, press Make over on the top right of the screen. This will separate out all the different colours for you. You can change the paper size in the drop down here, and then you can click and drag to move things about to take up less space on your cardstock. For example, I can move all those little pieces up in these gaps around the top so that I'll then have all of this space left to use on another project another day. If you're changing the paper size, you will need to do that for every single colour individually. When you're happy with how everything's looking, press continue to connect to your Cricut and then follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out from cardstock. If you're new to cutting cardstock with your Cricut and you'd like a little bit of an extra helping hand, once again head to craftwithsarah.com/help. Choose your type of machine from the list on the screen, and then I have separate videos and tutorials that follow the whole cut process through from start to finish on a range of different machines so that you can see exactly how to cut your cardstock. So go ahead, get all of your lovely wedding flowers cut out, and then we'll see how to put them together. Here are all the pieces of my wedding flower pot cut out, and I've laid them one on top of the other following the assembly guide that's included in the download folder to check that I'm happy with all the colours and that I haven't lost any of the little pieces along the way. I'll be sticking this together with a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Barely Art Glue, but I also like Halal, and the reason I like these two glues is that they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. I live in the UK and get both of these on Amazon. To add some depth and dimension between the pieces for a 3D effect, we'll use some foam squares. The ones I'm using are from Dot & Dab, but any will do. These ones are nice because they're quite small, so I'll be able to get it in all of the pieces I need to, but if yours are larger, don't worry, you can cut them easily with a pair of scissors. As with all my layered designs, we want to start at the bottom and work upwards, so I'll move these pieces apart. I'm going to try and keep them in the same order because I've gone to all the effort already of putting these in the right place. You can see on this bit I didn't quite have enough of my green card to complete the whole thing, but because that's going to be covered up, I thought it'll be fine. You won't notice once it's all stuck together. Alright, so now we're left with the very bottom piece, which is this white one. I know you can't really see it against my white table. There we are. And then the one to go on top of that is this green one, which will stick on with some foam squares. Let's turn that upside down and grab the foam. Try and get your foam squares into all the sticky out pieces. You may need to cut them smaller. Make sure none of the foam goes out over the edges, otherwise you'll be able to see it once the card or shadow box is all made. And we don't want to be able to see the foam, we want it all to be nice and hidden. I've got some pieces that I cut in half for another project. Put those in some of these leaves. Just makes it more sturdy if you've got your foam squares and all of those bits that are prone to tearing, especially if you're putting it on a card where it's going to be handled. In a shadow box it's not quite so important because it'll be behind glass. As well as putting the foam squares sort of around the edge, I'm also making sure that there are some in the middle, particularly in large areas of card like this. And that's to make sure it's nice and stable and you're going to get a consistent 3D effect across the whole piece of card. If there was nothing in the middle, the card will probably bend downwards like that because there's nothing to hold it up. But adding a few foam squares in the middle stops that happening. Now that I've got all my foam squares on, I can peel the tops off to reveal the stickiness underneath. And it's a little bit tricky on these smaller bits. This one doesn't want to stick. Okay, I'm going to trade that out for a new one. Hopefully that one will stick better. There we go. Okay, all those tops are off. Bring in the bottom bit and then line it up. You can line it up using the edge of the flower pot and also the leaves. And then when I've got it lined up, I'm going to gently place this piece on top of the white. And I'm not going to push down yet. I don't want these foam squares to stick. Just lining it up like that. And then have a look to check if you're happy with how that positioning is. Because it hasn't stuck yet, you can pick it up and move it really easily. That mostly looks okay apart from that one leaf. So I think that just needs a little bit of moving inwards. And then everything else looks good. So let's push down to stick. Next up is the dark green piece. This one will be done with glue. And there's one more bit of green and back to foam squares this time. Now your piece will go all the way to the bottom of the flower pot, but my piece of card scrap that I was using wasn't quite big enough, so mine's cut off a little bit in the middle. I'll need to do a little bit of fixing once it's stuck on, but I'll show you that in a moment. Okay, I'll have to line mine up along the top because my bottom doesn't fit. There we go. And then this is my own silly fault for not using a bit of card big enough. But just to make sure the next layer has the same amount of depth all the way across, I'm just going to add some foam squares to there. It's actually a glue layer next, but if I didn't put anything there, it means it would try and glue down to the darker green and it wouldn't stay level. So just a few little foam squares to fix that. And then next up is this one, which will be glued. Alright, now I'm going to work on the flowers along the top. I'm going to cheat a little bit and put a foam square straight on this one and the little daisy, to make it a bit easier than trying to put it on the back of the little pieces of card. I've got the daisy piece to go here. Line up those petals so it's the right way around. And then the yellow flower with the bigger bit first to go on there. That was lined up terribly. Let's try that again. That's better. And then glue the middle on the daisy and glue the smaller bit on that yellow flower. Then we've got our rose to go here. Starting, if I can pick it up, with this bit, which will be done with foam squares. The trickiest bit with these roses is lining them up because all the sides are different. I have a real nasty feeling I might have just put the foam squares on the wrong way. No, we're good. We're good. There we go. Okay, then we've got this bit, which will be glued on. Then the next solid piece, this one with some foam squares. I'm sticking it to my fingers. There. And then finally this bit to be glued. Doesn't really matter which way around you put these middle bits. You could look at the assembly guide if you want to make sure they're going exactly the right way up. But I'm just sort of guessing. Just mushed my glue out a little bit there. If you do that, you can get a weeding tool or something similar. Just try and scrape it away or use your fingernail. It does dry clear, so it's not the end of the world anyway, but just try and neaten it up a bit. Just if you are using a weeding tool, don't push hard because you don't want to scratch the card. Otherwise you'd probably see the scratches. But you can use it to just gently move that glue away. Now we can go back to the flower pot, and next is the strip that goes along the top like that. This is glued on. Next we've got the ribbon that will come down to hold on the rings, this time with foam squares. Again, it's hard to see the white on my white table, so apologies for that. I'll need some thinner foam squares that I've cut smaller to go in the rings, because I definitely want those to pop out. Now, I've run out of my foam squares. I'll have to open a new pack. Here we are, and cut some smaller. Now I can get these little tiny thin bits inside the rings. There. So if I just try and show you. It's a little bit hard to see, but hopefully you can kind of work out what I've done. And now, oh, I've just stuck a load of foam squares to my table. That wasn't very clever. Alright, now I'm going to peel the tops off of these to make them all sticky. Line it up, gently let go, and then I am not happy with that, so I can pick it up and move it. When you are happy, push down to stick. Next up is the lip that goes along the top of the flower pot, and because we've already used foam squares on that white bit underneath, this one will be glued. And now you can either work on the roses or the rings, it doesn't matter. I'm going to do the roses starting with this one. First we've got this bit to glue on top. Then next up this one with the little gap in the middle, which will be done with foam squares. Finally, this little piece to glue on. Oh, I've got a little bit of fluff on that from my jumper. There, lovely. Alright, the one on this side next. Start with the biggest bit, and this will be glued on. Then the next biggest bit, also to glue. Then the other darker piece for foam squares. One more bit for the rose, this one, to be glued. Okay. That's the roses done. Now we can move on to the rings. First up, we've got the gold, and I've used a kind of matte effect gold card for this. We'll glue these on. You don't need to try and get your foam squares in them again. There. And then this little bit of the bow with the bit going down. You can either glue it or use foam squares. I think I'm going to glue it. Otherwise, I think the loop that goes around connecting the rings would be a bit too high. There. And then finally, the top of the bow. And this time, I use my foam. There. Beautiful. And that is the wedding themed flower pot all finished. Turn it round to see all of those layers and lovely depth in there. The pretty roses. I've got my shiny rings. That's looking really nice. This was the version I sized to go in the shadow box. I've also done the greetings card version, and are you ready for this? Because it is so cute. Ta-da! Look how small it is compared to the shadow box version. It's really cute. This would make a lovely fridge magnet or something like that if you put some magnet on the back. It's very tiny. Now I did change up my layering when I did it this small because I thought it would look a bit weird with that many bits of foam square in it. So on this one I only put my foam square under the rim of the flower pot, so the creamy coloured layer, the top bow like we just did, and then I used one foam square layer for each of the roses and also the daisy and the little yellow flower. So in total there's only 2 layers of foam to make it tall, but I just think that works a little bit better. If I had all of those in there it would have ended up really thick. But that's super cute. I love how clever the Cricut is at cutting shapes, even teeny tiny. I mean, even this little bit going around the rings has cut really nicely. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish off my shadow box and my greetings card, and then I'll show you what they look like. And here is my finished shadow box, all framed. It looks really nice with the heart pattern background to add even more of a love theme to the shadow box. And here it is a little bit closer so you can see all of those pretty layers. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it's really pretty and it would make a beautiful wedding gift. Or if you're making the card, let's take a little look at that one too. Here's what the card looks like. The Cricut drew my messages really nicely around there. I used a kind of deep hot pink pen, which matches in with the rose colour. And it's just really nice. I've got a little bit of glitz with some gold around the edge, which matches the rings. And this would make a lovely, personal, handmade card for someone very special that you know who is getting married. If you enjoyed following along with me in this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more free SVGs and papercraft fun. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!